In this video, I'm going to be summarizing everything we've learned so far in the technical analysis series. If you haven't already, please go back and watch the technical analysis series so you can see things individually. In this video, I'm just going to summarize. I'm going to pull up the chart of a random stock. So this is the chart of Microsoft, and let's go through most of the things that we've learned so far. Just as a disclaimer, I've not covered everything technical analysis has to offer. So you can see that there are many patterns and things I've not mentioned at all. And if you were to go into all of this, it can take a lot of time and effort to learn all of these things. However, what I've taught so far on my channel has been the basics that you need to know as a beginner, and the rest, it will come over time. And I might even point some of these things out when I look at charts in the future when I'm analyzing stocks or cryptocurrencies. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, share it with others, like the video. This helps get these videos out to more people so that they can all benefit. Starting with the chart of Microsoft, I'm not going to be going through the fundamentals of this company, but if you haven't already, there's a playlist I made on how to analyze the companies. But assuming this company is fundamentally good, let's start the technical analysis side of things. The first thing that I would look at is where can I normally buy Microsoft when it comes to ETFs. I know that Microsoft is a US based stock and it's one of the biggest holdings of the S&P 500. So 6% of the S&P 500 is made up by this one stock. And this is important to know because before I even look at the chart of Microsoft, it's important to look at the main ETF where it's actually held. So I would have a look at the S&P 500. So this is the chart of the S&P 500. And what I want to know here is the S&P 500 in an uptrend or a downtrend? And the reason for this is if the S&P 500 is in an uptrend, then the likelihood is Microsoft is also in an uptrend because Microsoft is one of the leading stocks within the S&P 500. I could say the same thing with cryptocurrencies as well. So if I wanted to invest in an altcoin, I would have a look at what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin is in an uptrend, the likelihood of the altcoin being in an uptrend is also very likely. Of course, sometimes you can get some divergences in this, but generally speaking, it will follow the trend. Here, I can see with the S&P 500, since 2020, it's been in an uptrend. So you got a low here, you got a high here, you got a higher low, and then you got a higher high. And just for confirmation, I can add the moving average onto this, and you can see that the price at the moment is above the 50 moving average. So I can also expect Microsoft to be in an uptrend because the S&P 500 is also in an uptrend. So now I look at the chart of Microsoft. I can see that the price, it has been quite parabolic over the last few years. In fact, since 2016, it's gone up quite a lot. With charts, when it's gone up by such crazy amounts, so we're talking about from $27 to $400, the chart can look vertical like this. So just to make it easier to view, I try to switch this to logarithmic scale just to see whether that makes things easier. And what that essentially means, you can see here, look, the same equal distances, 25 to 50, these are all going up in equal distances of 25. Whereas when I switch it to a logarithmic scale, you can see it's no longer an equal amount. You could see up until here, it was about $30, but then over here, the price scale started to squeeze together. And essentially, if I zoom out, it just makes it easier to view. It's still the same thing, it's still the same price action, but it makes it easier to do analysis. The first thing I always make sure is I'm looking at the monthly chart. So I look at the general trend first, and I don't even need to put any moving averages or any indicators onto this just to see that it's in an uptrend. So you can see it's in a clear uptrend. The next thing I would do is I would get the horizontal line tool, and I would look for any obvious support and resistance lines. And remember from my video, if something touches the line 3 times, then it's a solid level. Anything less than that is not as reliable, and anything more than that is going to be really good. So if I start from here, I can see it touches over here, support 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a solid level of support, but again, that's at $22, so it's very far from where it is right now. The likelihood of it hitting is very rare. So again, you got resistance, resistance, resistance. So that's another level. But if I look closer to the price right now, because I don't see Microsoft going there in the short term anyway, or even in the next few years. So I'm going to kind of ignore these levels, and I'm going to work from the top to the bottom. I can see there's a level of resistance over here. So 1, 2, and then it broke out. So this is not the 3 touches. However, there's 2 touches, and there's likelihood, price, it comes down here and touches that. So that's one level that I've put on. Second one I'm going to put is over here. So you could see resistance, then became support here. 1, 2, 3. 3 times it's hit. So if I zoom in, resistance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So even more. So this is a solid level of support. So I've marked that on. At the moment, you can probably see more lines, but maybe one over here. But I think for now, this is a good starting point. So the next thing I would do is I'd move on to the weekly chart, and you could still see the lines that I drew on, and you could see it's even more clear, the support and resistance. So 1, 2, 3 touches, breaking out, retesting to become support, and again it's hit a couple of times, and likewise with the resistance over here as well. Now I'd look to see if I can see any other obvious levels. So maybe somewhere over here is a level of support I can see, but this is on the weekly chart, no longer on the monthly, and maybe around here as well. These lines, they don't have to be perfect. Charts are never perfect, otherwise everyone would be making money. You got to make do with what you've got in front of you. And the way I draw lines might be different to the way that someone else draws lines. Everyone's method is going to be different. So at this stage, I've got support and resistance lines, which I have drew on. What I can also do at these stages is, if I'm not happy with some of the support and resistance I've drawn, I can adjust the lines just to make it more closer to the best fit whilst I'm on the weekly time frame. I think I'm happy with how it is right now. Then if I wanted to, I can then go to a smaller time frame, so a daily time frame, and further refine the lines if I want to. But remember, any new lines that you add at this stage is not going to be that reliable because it's the daily time frame and not the weekly time frame. So I avoid adding new support and resistance unless I'm doing day trading or shorter term trades. So maybe you can add a resistance here which becomes support here. But I wouldn't be too confident. It's not high confident. In fact, I can add text and just write daily support here. So I know that, if price hits this, it's daily support. It's not that reliable. So I can still buy at this price. However, I wouldn't put too much money in. I would manage my risk accordingly. So I've drawn on some support and resistance lines. So the next thing I would do is I would then move on to start using some indicators. So now I'm going to add on the moving average, and I've added the 50 SMA, and I've also added the 200 SMA. And you could see over here, the price at the moment is above. However, it's getting close to falling below. So I'm going to keep an eye out on this. And if I just take off the indicator over here, I'm also just going to have a look with the Bollinger Bands as well, just to see where price is. So you can see price is within the Bollinger Bands, it's getting wider, so the volatility is increasing a bit. Previous to this, you can see price was outside the Bollinger Bands over here as well. I've taken off the indicators and I'm just looking at the chart just with the support and resistance lines. The next thing I want to ask myself is, am I seeing any obvious patterns here? So for this, I like to look on a longer time frame. So a weekly time frame, it smoothens out some of the volatility for me. And just looking at this might be a bit optimistic, but I think I can see a head and shoulders pattern forming over here, where all of this is the head and then the shoulder. I've mentioned this one in one of the previous videos I've posted when I actually taught the head and shoulders. And again, I don't know how this is going to play out. I might be right, I might be wrong, but I'm open to the idea. The second thing I can notice is this a bear flag? So you've got a down move over here. You've got price ranging in this area over here. So maybe will price do something like this, where it comes down and forms a bear flag? That's another question I want to ask myself. So far, I can see one bearish pattern over here. I can see a potential head and shoulders, which is also bearish. And if I was to then add the indicators, you could see the price is on the higher end of the Bollinger Bands. So maybe it might come down over here just to test the bottom side of it, because it has done that in the past. You could see price, it has gone to the bottom side of the Bollinger Bands. And just for completeness, I'm going to use the Fibonacci tool to try and predict how low Microsoft will go in this move. So if I go on the short-term high over here, and if I go to the lowest the price has been in this move, in this consolidation period, and if I go back over here and just stretch it out so I can see more clearly, I can see that the 1.618 Fibonacci is very close. It's about $341, whereas the level of support and resistance I drew earlier was $345. It's possible, because these two levels are so close together, if price does come down to here, then it's a very solid level. Of course, there's no guarantee that price will come this low. However, when there are changes in the economy and there's so much coming up, there's talks of recession and things like that, anything is possible, because it's easy to think everything will go up in the bull market. However, in the bear market, that's where people essentially get burnt and lose money, because things go down more than they expect it to. When doing technical analysis, the more confluence you get from all these support resistant lines and your indicators and patterns that you see, the stronger the levels are going to be. So the examples that we brought out was this 786 Fibonacci level, where it aligns with the support, the Fibonacci, the bear flag, and also this 618 level with the resistance, the head and shoulders pattern, and the bear flag. These are all levels where you can see there's obvious confluence. So these are definitely significant levels. it's just one thing to be aware of when doing technical analysis. You might see only a bear flag forming and nothing else, no support, no resistance, nothing. And that might be a good level. However, on its own, you wouldn't be too confident. However, when you get a bear flag forming and you get something like a Fibonacci level aligning with that level, that increases your confidence. And then with that, if you also get something like a head and shoulders playing out as well, which also confluences with the level, that is another level. That also increases your confidence. And then when you add other indicators like your Bollinger Bands, which might also align with the level as well, that further increases your confidence in the level as well. So these things, once you practice more and more with technical analysis, when more things align with what you're looking at, then it increases your confidence and you can trade with more confidence and potentially reduce your risk and increase the probabilities of winning when investing. These things, it's not easy to do, and I do agree that it takes time to achieve, and it's one thing, once you're in the markets for a long time, it's things that you will pick up. So in this video, just from doing technical analysis, although Microsoft can go higher, I don't know how much higher it can go from here. It's very difficult to say because, of course, it's very difficult to predict price. However, it's important to know some of the possibilities. Yes, maybe price, it might not come down this low. However, there are other levels of support I have identified. For example, the 0.786 Fibonacci is very close. There's a very good confluence with this support at about $400. And for Microsoft to come down maybe 10% from $439 to $400, that is very possible. So it's very important to have some sort of plan. Maybe if you're someone who DCAs or maybe someone who buys at support and does swing trades, maybe the 400 level, the 0.68 Fibonacci, is a good level to buy at. And if you did want to go in a bit more heavy, if price does come down over here, then this is also another level that you can potentially buy at. One thing that I did not mention is the RSI. You could see Microsoft is on the higher side of the RSI, the upper half. It has been trending down, the RSI, and the price has also been trending down as well. So maybe this also points towards the rally maybe cooling off. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe so other people can see this as well. This video, it marks the end of my technical analysis playlist for now. The next video is going to be going through other things when it comes to investing,